doing just to kind of, well, not pass the time, but basically some stuff that I think might be helpful. And sometimes I don't feel like turning on the lights and getting all this crazy stuff. So take from that what you will. My name is Corey Carlick. I am the CEO of Skycron and Skycron Live. We do a number of major multi-camera live streaming and television broadcast productions. I'm just doing this on my phone right now, but we do the Rod Peterson Show for the Game Plus Network. We do Go Nitro for NBC and in U.S. syndication on a number of television stations across the United States and North America. And today I have 20 years experience in traditional television and live streaming on top of it. So today we are going to talk about how to pick a live streaming company for your event if you are, let's say, so this is going to be geared more towards managers and people that are at maybe SMBs, small to medium sized companies, or even large ones that are looking to have hire a company to do a multi-camera live stream for an event that they're doing. So just to give you an example, this would be applicable to people that, say for example, are doing convocation dinners at a university, or a end of year or shareholder meeting for a Fortune 500, or say an awards ceremony for a company, or a not-for-profit, that sort of thing. So any sort of event where you have speakers or multiple speakers, and you want to have nice graphics and basically something that looks like a television production, which more and more companies are doing these days, right? So award ceremonies, keynote events, live events, stuff that's behind a paywall, seminars. This is particularly applicable for seminars, right? For people that want to hire a company that live stream for seminars. So first, let's talk a little bit about what to look for. What are you looking for a live stream company? There's a big difference between live stream companies that have a background in television and then went into live streaming, and people that just do live streaming and then went into television. Both options are perfectly valid, but essentially live streaming is just the democratized version of traditional live television. So anybody that goes into live streaming, Leonard says hi. Hi. Who you got in the rematch, Poatan or Ankalev? Okay. Not sure, but that's not what I'm talking about right now. I'm talking about live streaming right now. Although I do jiu-jitsu myself. So anyway, going back to what we were talking about, because this is a live stream after all. So this is going to be geared towards... So anyway, the difference between live streaming companies, and this is larger multicam type live streams. If you can, you generally want to have a company that has experience in live television. And the reason for this is they're going to be familiar with the graphics and the level of production polish that is generally associated with slick television. So if you've got a company that's doing live streaming and they started out doing television for 20 years first, you're in really good shape because they're going to have a lot more experience dealing with the basics. And then on top of that, they're already dealing with the internet stuff. We are one of those companies. I worked in television for 20 years before that. Also, sometimes when you have companies that do not have background in television and simply decided to start a live streaming business, you'll get stuff that looks okay, but maybe the graphics look a little amateurish, and some of the cuts between angles look a little weird. You might have weird angles. It looks kind of so-so. right? And you're spending a lot of money for a live stream, so you know, why you aren't popular? Well, my TV show has 74 million viewers, so I don't know. If that's not popular, then I don't know what to tell you. Anyway, so what you really want to be asking yourself is how much experience the company has, the live streaming company has, in doing live, and you want to ideally make sure that they have a background in traditional television. The background in traditional television ensures that they're able to give a polished product that people are generally willing to accept. They're also going to have that additional efficiency, in that additional efficiency when, basically you're not going to have as many frills. You're not going to have a bunch of computer nerds. And in fairness, I'm a nerd, going around that are thinking more about the technical end than how it should look. So you want to have a company that really has experience with television, so that they're concentrating on the overall look at it, as well as being able to handle the technical. That's very, very important. The other thing you want to make sure is you want to make sure that they're not defensive. And there are certain things that you're going to want to make sure that they have. You do want to make sure that they have proper insurance. So neg and take insurance, proper production insurance in case they don't deliver. You want to make sure that they're organized, and you also want to make sure that they're going to basically provide, be there for a technical day. What you don't want is, you don't want a company that doesn't have television experience, because you're going to be more likely to get weird looking camera angles and things like that, and it doesn't look very professional. You also want to make sure that they have proper insurance, that they have neg and take insurance, that they have liability insurance, that they have personal insurance. That's very, very important, and you're going to want to, in some cases, ask if you can be named as an additional insured. This does one of two things. One, it really kind of shows that they're serious. If they don't know what neg and take insurance is, run. A live streaming company should have proper production insurance, as well as general liability, usually minimum 2 million, although 5 million is becoming more and more and more popular. This is a very good way to kind of vet if they actually know anything, or if they're a couple of kids going out with cameras. If they don't know what neg and take insurance is, and they don't know what that is, or they only have general liability, or they don't know, then you want to run. It's a good way of being able to determine if they're familiar with it, and ask who their insurer is as well. That's very important. So if you know that they have proper neg and take insurance, or that they have, or a DICE policy or something like that, then you know that they are legitimate, at least, because they honestly would not know what that is otherwise. So that's very important. The other stuff is, to some degree, common sense. If you ask them questions about the facility, like if you ask them questions about their procedure, if you ask them questions about what they need, and they seem standoffish or defensive, that's a red flag. Now, you don't want to necessarily tell them how to do their job and put restrictions, but if they can't really tell you, if they're not being particularly communicative, if they are patronizing you, or they're treating you like a necessary evil, that's a red flag, right? A good live streaming company that has television experience, like we do, is going to be open and honest and enjoy talking about the procedure. They're going to want to make sure that you are comfortable, and that you understand. They're going to try and make you part of the process as much as you feel comfortable being part of the process. And they're going to be open and communicate with you along the way. So that's something very important. So we've gone over the first few. One, you want a company that has experience with television, before going into live streaming, right? So that it has the proper visual polish. Two, you want to make sure that they have the proper insurance. So you want to make sure that they have neg and take and or dice insurance, because that's a specialized type of insurance. If they don't have that type of insurance or they don't know what that is, run. And 3, you want to make sure that they are open with you and that they are willing to talk about the procedures with you, right? You're not a broadcaster, so you're not necessarily going to know what that is. So you're not really going to be able to look at it and go, that should be this way or that way, right? That's our job, is to make sure that everything is set up for you. But you can make sure that you're not being bullshitted by asking if they have dice and or neg and take insurance, because that is production specific insurance. And you also want to ask them who their insurer is, right? Because then they can't just say, oh yeah, we have neg and take, we have dice. You want to be able to have them say, oh, and we're insured with X company. That's how you know. So those are 2 very important things. Referrals are always good. They're not always necessary. Sometimes you can have very talented people. If they have examples of previous work, that's always ideal. So you want to be able to see if they have previous examples of live streams, or at least high-level production work, so you can determine if the quality of their stuff is what you would consider to be at your standards. And the other thing that you obviously want to make sure is that they, they are going to be there for a tech day. Ask them if there's a tech day. There should always be a tech day. Now, that being said, you should expect to pay to have that tech day. But if you have a company that turns around and says, no, I don't need a tech day. We don't need a tech day. We'll just show up and we'll set it up an hour before the event. No. They need to either set up the day before or several hours before, right? Especially if it's a larger event, because you want to make sure that everything is tested and all the cameras and stuff are working. Television, the equipment is a bit more robust, right? Because it's all generally made by the same company or the same handful of companies, and there's no software really that can get involved and get in the way. But when you are dealing with something like live streaming, you really want to make sure that the company is taking the time to set up the stream and doing it properly and doing it with decent production values. They also should have monitors so that you can see, right? You should be able to see the feed. You want to be able to see on the switch or on what's functioning as the set. You want to be able to see a camera 1, a camera 2, a camera 3, or whatever in a multi-view monitor, and you want to see the program out, right? You don't necessarily know what you're looking at, nor should you have to, but at least you want to be able to be seeing to some degree the angles that are coming out, because you are paying for the company. And this is part of the reason why I say what you're paying for is not really just the equipment, but you're paying for the expertise. And it's not going to be necessarily all that cheap either. So as an example, we have obviously we do big stuff with stadiums and things like that, and they are very we do events that are sometimes $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. I'm just going to make sure that I have I'm just going to see who is I don't know if I can set this up and whatever. It's meant to be a live stream. It is not meant to be a whoops. I'm going to turn that off. I guess I lost the person that was watching. Oh well, that's fine. I seem to get a few people, and then I get a bunch of other people. Yeah. So, basically, long story short is you just want... These are the things that you want to make sure that a company has when you hire them. You want to make sure that they have television experience to give you that visual polish. That's number one. 2, you want to make sure that they have the appropriate insurance. You want to ask them if they have DICE or neg and take insurance, or ideally both. You want to ask them which insurer they're with so that you're sure that they're not bullshitting you. You want to make sure that 3, they are open and honest with you about basically how long they think it's going to take. You don't want them to be standoffish with you and guarded and act like you're catching them doing something that they're not supposed to, because generally speaking, if that's what's happening, then they are. And finally, you want to make sure that they have the sufficient pipeline. You also want to make sure that they are giving enough time for a tech run through. Generally, wherever possible, you want the company to be doing that the day before and take the day, like take a tech day to set up the cameras and everything. But depending on the size of the event, you want to, at the very least, have them take 3 or 4 hours to really set everything up and make sure everything is working. And they should also be able to show you the feeds. Very, very important. You know, they don't necessarily need to give you a full run through or a play-by-play or any of this kind of stuff, but you should at least be able to see the output on you know, a multi-monitor that you can see as the client, you know, when you're hiring these companies. And as I was saying before, it's not not something that is super ultra cheap, right? So with us, it's going to start at $5,000 Canadian. So Skycron, for example, is $5,000 Canadian for a 3-camera live stream with nice graphics. It would be sufficient for a live stream. You know, if it's like say a small keynote speaker or something like that. Conversely, our pricing goes up to $9,700 for, say, maybe an award ceremony or a year end or something for a corporation. And this is all we do, right? This is all we do. All we do is video and television. And, you know, we spent many years in television, and so this is why it is the way it is. So yeah, so $9,700 Canadian for a television style live stream. That would be basically set in, say, something that would be at a conference center, right? Or like university convocation or something like that. So a municipal debate, political debate, that kind of thing. That's something that would, you know, be, and then the third one that we have is like 15,000. So, you know, not certainly a lot cheaper than it used to be for that sort of thing 20 years ago, right? Because the cost of equipment has gone down, but the time taken to gain the expertise and wrangle the equipment and make sure that everything works the way it's supposed to, that stays the same. And that's really what you're paying for, right? The stuff is simply too complicated to go and do yourself. I mean, I've seen so many people whereby they just go and they think, oh, well, I can do that myself and I'll buy all the equipment, you know, and then they set it up and they have no idea. They have no idea. Or maybe they go and they get all the cameras on, but then they can't get the software to work. But then they don't understand what an SRT feed is, and they don't know how to deal with an SMT, like you know, my brain's not it's, you know, you know, SEMP feed and that kind of thing, right? So it's knowing how to make these electronic greeblies work together in a way that ensures that your event is smooth. And it takes a long time, man. It's like saying, hey, you know what? I could go and be a mechanic. I've never popped the hood of a car before, but fuck, man, how hard could it possibly be? You know, and then you go, and then these are the people that can't even change their own windshield wiper blades, which There's nothing wrong with that, but you can't go in if you have no experience with something highly technical, say, and act like you're going to know more than a mechanic, right? There's a reason that they spend the time doing what they do, and they go through the trades, and they're indentured and all this stuff. It's the same sort of deal, right? There's a lot of things that can go wrong. There's a lot of things that can go in a way that things can go sideways, especially with electronics. There's a million types of cameras. There's a million types of switchers. There's a lot of software. The software is expensive. Some of the software packages that we use can be $5, $10, $20,000 just for the software. Just for the software. That doesn't include the maintenance. That doesn't include the upkeep. That doesn't include the cameras. It doesn't include the lights, the truck, the wear and tear, the tripods, the jibs, the this, the that, the other thing, and sandbags and sliders and dolly track and la 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 la, and it just goes on and on and on and on and on and on. And all that, you have to learn all this stuff, right? This stuff takes 20 years to really be able to do this stuff efficiently, right? So this is one of the reasons why you hire a company that does that. So hopefully this helped, and at some point I will probably do more series on this that maybe are a little more bite-sized. I just kind of wanted to do it real quick on the phone. But if you enjoyed this, please hit the subscribe button. Or if you need live streaming done in North America, definitely hit us up at skycron.com/live and get a quote, although we have some pretty good turnkey solutions. And you can also reach us at our main office at 306-720-0097. Or you can conversely call our Edmonton office at 780-230-1516. That's 780-230-1516. Anyway, have a good one, and I will talk to you later.